At 2 in the morning, the streets of Chicago were eerily quiet. The rain hadn't stopped. It was just getting lighter. I was looking out the window of my car. There was a special kind of silence on these streets. The kind of silence that only comes when a crime is about to happen, or has already happened. On the north side of Chicago, there's a street that locals call Silent Street. Here, among the old houses, stands a house whose windows are always closed. And people say no one lives there, but every night a light is on. A murder happened on that same street last night. A 28-year-old nurse, Emily Carter, who lived with her brother. Neighbors said she came home from the hospital every night, had dinner, and left again in the morning. Simple life. Quiet. But that night the lights in her house didn't go out. I always say, silent houses have the most stories. The police are called in the morning. The news came when her brother Kyle Carter called. My sister is dead. Someone killed her. Detective Derek Hunter, the city's most experienced detective, arrived on the scene. The rain had stopped, but the air was damp. He opened the door. Everything inside was in its place. No signs of force, no blood spatter, no struggle. Only Emily's body lay on the couch, as if she had fallen asleep on the last sentence of a story. But there was a smile on her lips. This struck the detective as strange. What kind of killer leaves their victim smiling? I often think a smile is either a sign of peace or of some secret that the world does not know. The detective picked up a phone near the body. The last call on it was from an unknown number at 1:47 a.m., and she died shortly after the call ended. Sometimes the crime is not about time, but time becomes part of the crime. Neighbors said that at night a black SUV. It was parked outside. A man got out, a bouquet of flowers in his hand. He went inside for a few minutes, and then came out. But no one saw the face. I watched the video, CCTV footage. There was just a shadow behind the blurry camera, like someone running away from the light. Detective Derek asked Kyle, "Was your sister in a relationship? Was she seeing anyone?" Kyle shook his head in the negative. "No, she just lived between the hospital and home. She never brought anyone home." But then the things in the kitchen told me something else. 2 coffee cups, 2 plates, and an empty vase, as if waiting for a special guest. I said to myself, this is no ordinary murder. This is the end of a meeting. A small envelope lay next to the body. Nothing was written on it. When the detective opened it, inside there was just one word. Again. I will never forget the moment Derek read that word. A flash of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. Because 5 years ago, on this same street, another girl had died, exactly like this. Smiling on the couch, and she also had an envelope, on which it was written. Again. I saw the fear on Derek's face. It wasn't just murder, it was a message. I often think some stories never end. They keep repeating, like a shadow that never leaves the light. The detective opened the case file, took out a photo from a previous case. That girl, Megan Hunter. And the moment stopped as she read her name. Because Megan, Detective Derek's wife. I told you, sometimes crime doesn't happen on time. This crime came from the past. The rain had started again, and I was wondering, has the killer returned? Is it? Or is someone else paying someone else's bill? The rain still hadn't stopped. Water droplets were running down the windows, and the darkness outside was as deep as if the light had never come there. When Laura heard that her husband Martin would not be coming back, there was a strange calm on her face, as if she was waiting for the outcome of a decision. The sadness on Laura's face was hidden deep in a secret. Police officer Detective Robert Finch sat in front of her, writing something in a notebook. "Mrs. Laura, has anything unusual happened since your husband disappeared?" Laura looked up and looked into his eyes. Every night, someone knocks on the door, but when I look outside, there's no one there. Detective Finch thought for the first time that perhaps this case was not just about a missing husband, but about a silent witness who was still in the same house. On the other hand, Martin's friend Alan was also called in for investigation. He was a shy person, but there was fear in his eyes. He said that Martin had been going to an old mansion in District 14 for a few days, the same mansion that had been deserted for years. Robert immediately headed towards the mansion with his team. That mansion was on the far edge of the city, covered with trees, as if nature itself was trying to hide its crimes. The door was rusty. As soon as they pushed, a stench wafted from inside. Blood spattered on the walls, and a broken frame on the table. The frame held a picture of Martin and Laura's wedding, but Laura's face was covered in black ink. Detective Finch's hands trembled slightly. "It's a sign of some personal grudge," he muttered. And then, in the darkness, someone lit a candle. Someone's breathing could be heard, as if a third person was already there. The team searched every room but found nothing. All that remained was an underground cellar. As they descended, a voice echoed, "There's nothing here. Go away." That voice was Laura's. The air in the room had turned cold. Robert turned on the flashlight and placed a wooden box in front of it. Bloodstains were clearly visible inside. The box was opened, and inside was Martin's passport, watch, and a videotape. When the tape was played, it showed Martin arguing with someone. It was dark. Only voices were coming out. "You have no idea what I saw. Martin, you have to end all this. If you open your mouth, it will all end." That voice was Laura's. That moment, when the tape ended, only the sound of breathing remained in the room. Detective Finch no longer had any doubt. This was no accident, a planned murder. The rain began to fall harder. The raindrops on the windows seemed to be counting down the time. Robert Finch sat in his office and replayed the tape. He watched the video frame by frame. A shadow appeared on the wall behind Martin, a woman. But it wasn't Laura. This was the turning point where the story changed. Because it wasn't just Laura and Martin anymore. There was a third person, controlling everything between the two of them. In the morning, the case was handed over to the FBI. And with that entered Rachel Moore, a skilled profiler with a reputation for being able to peer into the killer's mind. As she was looking through the case file, she said, "This murder is not the result of any passion, but part of a mind game. The killer wants us to think that Laura did it, but in fact, he is misleading us," Robert asked in surprise. "So you mean there is someone else?" Rachel replied with a faint smile. "No, no one else. Someone very close. Maybe someone you didn't notice." Mr. J said, "That one sentence robbed Robert of sleep for nights. Now every face, everything seemed suspicious." That night, a car stopped outside Laura's house. A tall man in a coat came to the door, but didn't knock. The cameras recorded that face, Alan's, Martin's friend. When the police asked Laura the next day why Alan had come, she simply said, "I didn't see anyone. Maybe you were just imagining it." But the phone records found a message sent to Laura's phone. "You promised not to tell the police." Mr. J's voice came out slowly. Those words were like poison. And now the suspicion had shifted not to Laura, but to Alan himself. That night, the FBI raided Alan's house. The house was deserted, but what they found in the basement changed everything. Photos on one wall, Martin, Laura, and even Detective Finch. Dates were written under each photo, and the last date was tonight. Rachel pursed her lips. This is the final twist in the killer's mind game. He's about to reveal himself now. But sometimes, even the killer himself doesn't know when he's crossed the line. At 11 o'clock at night, Screams came from the last house on the quiet street. When the police arrived, the door was open. It was dark inside, with only a single candle burning. A note was placed on the table. "I'll show you everything. Just follow me." And in that moment, Robert Finch realized that he was no longer just solving a case, but that he himself had become part of the game. Sometimes reality is not what we see, but what we are not allowed to see. At 11:30 p.m., Robert Finch and Rachel Moore entered the last house on the quiet street. The door was open, the candle still burning, but the light flickered strangely, as if a shadow were moving around it. The note on the table was half burned, but the last line written on it was clear. "Martin is alive." Rachel said hesitantly, "It's part of some psychological game, Finch. Maybe someone put it on to seduce you." Robert replied slowly, "Or maybe he's inviting us to his last show." They didn't realize that the game had just begun. There was a secret door at the back of the house, which no one had probably opened for years. As Robert pushed it, a heavy gust of wind blew in. The stairs were going down to the basement, completely dark. Rachel turned on her flashlight. There were bloody handprints on the walls, and an old recorder lay on the floor. Robert pressed the button. The tape started playing. "I told them they couldn't stop me. If I died, the truth would speak for itself." It was Martin's voice, and this recording was from the night he disappeared. Martin was saying, "Laura, you don't know who Alan is. He's not just my friend. He's your past, the one you're running from." Rachel's hands began to tremble. "What do you mean? The past?" Robert pulled out a file. Laura's real identity, not Laura Green, but Laura Allen. This was the moment when everything turned upside down. Laura and Alan were actually husband and wife. Together, they had planned to eliminate Martin. But Martin had already recorded it all, so that the truth would never die. Rachel saw something in the corner of the wall. There was a secret room behind a wooden cupboard. The door opened, and inside sat Martin. Alive. He had chains on his hands, his face bruised, but life in his eyes. "You guys finally came," he said slowly. "Laura and Alan thought I was dead, but I stayed alive for one thing only: revenge. And the fire of revenge never goes cold." At that moment, a voice came from above. Laura's scream. The police ran, but it was too late. Both Laura and Alan had escaped. The tire tracks of the car were going all the way to the corner of the street, and then suddenly ended, as if the earth itself had swallowed them. Martin was rushed to the hospital. He remained in a coma for weeks. When he regained consciousness, he said only one thing: "I finished them both off. You just didn't find the bodies." And maybe he was telling the truth, because to this day, two shadows are seen at night in the last house on the quiet street: a woman and a man, who are not running away from anyone, but waiting for someone. The sound of the rain gradually began to grow louder. I am Mr. J, and this was the story of the last house on the quiet street. If you think the truth always comes out, then next time, before you open a closed door, think twice.